This is an academic journal article review guide. The purpose of this video is to help you write your academic journal article review. The first thing we have to do is understand what an academic journal article is. An academic journal article is written by a knowledgeable historian, and they usually are an expert in their field of study. Now, these historians that are writing academic journal articles have their PhDs, which means they are extremely smart individuals. And what they will do is they will write these academic journal articles to give you new information about their field of study. However, these articles are very challenging because these historians, who are experts in their field, are going to be using a lot of words that you don't use in a day-to-day basis. And so what you will find is that you will have to read the article and perhaps reread the article to understand the importance of the academic journal article. So don't be surprised if you spend 3 hours reading an academic journal article. Please give yourself plenty of time. If you have any words that perhaps you don't understand, look up those words. Your goal is to understand about 60 to 70% of the academic journal article. The article is written above a community college reading level. However, there's enough information in it that you can understand and you'll be able to successfully write a review. Now, where are academic journal articles located? Well, the correct answer is academic journal articles are located in a database. This database is available at our library. However, to make this easier for you as an online student, you are able to access these articles, because we have access to them in the database, in a PDF format inside of the course. And so make sure that you open up the place where you submit the academic journal article in order to find out the articles that are available for this particular review. So, reading the article, give yourself 3 hours. Find the articles online. You'll only be picking one of the articles, so you'll see a list of maybe 5 to 10, maybe even 15 articles. You're only going to be reading one of those articles. And then after that, you have to write your review. Now, it's important to understand that this is not a book report. This is not a research paper. You are going to be writing a review. You're going to be telling us about what the author did in this article, what was done successfully, what was done unsuccessfully, but it's a review. And in order to write a good review, you will have to follow the AJA guidelines. And the AJA guidelines consist of 10 things. The first thing you have to do to have a successful review is you have to identify the author's purpose in writing the article. So how do you find the author's purpose? The easiest way to find the author's purpose is find out, why did they write this article? Ask yourself that question. Why did they write this article? And that is the purpose. Now, you can sometimes find the purpose clearly stated. The author might say, my purpose is, and you'll write down, the author said on page 2, my purpose is, and he told us. However, oftentimes you'll have to identify what you think the purpose is. You will get credit for identifying what you think the purpose is, whether or not I agree with you in regards to the purpose. It's not about right or wrong, it's about what you think as a reader the purpose of the article was. The second thing you're looking for is the thesis statement. So a thesis is the main argument, and so you're looking for a main argument. Generally, you'll find it on the first or second page, and then the thesis in a good review is always repeated inside the conclusion. So make sure you're searching for that thesis statement, but just like the purpose, I don't care if you give me the right thesis statement, I don't care if you give me the wrong thesis statement. Your goal is to identify what you think the main argument is, what you think the thesis is, and you're going to be turning that in and you'll be getting credit for that. The third thing I'm looking for is the challenge to historical viewpoints. For some reason, this is the hardest thing for students to understand. And so this is why when you watch this video, I'll tell you how to identify the challenge. Historians that write these articles, a lot of times they have feuds with other historians, and so they may be challenging another historian. And they'll even say inside their article, I am challenging this historian. Sometimes the challenge is not very clear. And if you don't see a clear challenge, then think about the information in the article. Did you learn this information in K through 12? And if you did not learn this information inside of your high school or middle school history class, then that's what this article is challenging. It's challenging the evidence and the information that you've been receiving in K through 12. And perhaps this information is not complete. Maybe our K through 12 education system is giving us a Disneyland version of history rather than giving us the truth. And so that can always be a challenge. So if you can't find a specific challenge, then always relate it back to what's being taught in our K through 12 public education system. The fourth thing you want to do is you want to identify primary sources. So I'm not going to talk about primary sources specifically here. There's another video that you can watch that will help you identify primary sources, but your goal is to identify 3 primary sources. Be as specific as possible. So if it is a primary source that's going to talk about a newspaper, then give me the title of the newspaper. If you're going to talk about a specific person, tell me the person's name and what was the quote that they said. Make sure that you're giving me specific examples of primary sources. Don't say things like books, court records, and pictures. That's not specific, and that won't get you full credit. So you've got to be very specific about your primary sources, but make sure you watch the next video in order to find out how to identify primary sources. So after you get the primary sources, the easiest part is how could this article, or your personal likes and dislikes of this article. So what did you like about the article? What did you dislike about the article? So give your praises and your critiques for this article. You're also going to identify some constructive criticism in regards to what could be improved in this article. So I often tell students to take their dislikes of the article and connect it to how the author could make this work stronger. So if you dislike that the article is long, you can connect it to constructive criticism and say, the author should not repeat themselves because the article is too long. The author repeated themselves on page 2, 4, and 6. I think the author should take out the repetition on page 4 and 6, only state it once on page 2, and this will make the article shorter. So what you did is you took a dislike and you gave constructive criticism for improving the article. Maybe the article doesn't have any photographs. You could say, as a dislike, I wish this article had pictures because I'm a visual learner. And then for your constructive criticism or ways to improve the article, you can say the author could improve this by having a photograph of Dolly Madison at the end of the article. The next thing you have to do is the recommended audience. Who could read this article? Who should read this article? You need to identify that. Also, you need to explain how this contributes to our understanding of history, specifically United States history. If you're taking this in a specific class, like maybe you're looking at this in a California history class, and how does it relate to California history? The next thing you want to do is give me an example of how this supports or contradicts the textbook. So you're reading your textbook, show me how this supports or contradicts the textbook. All of these articles either support the textbook, because it says the exact same thing or something very similar, or it's going to contradict the textbook. And so the contradiction is, even if the textbook doesn't say anything about this topic, that is a contradiction. And so you need to say, this is what the textbook says, and then it's a contradiction because this information inside the article is not appearing in the textbook. So for most students, the best way to do support and contradiction is to find a direct quote from the textbook that supports the article, or a direct quote from the textbook that shows contradiction to the article. And if you have time, it's not required, but it's helpful. The last thing that you can do is you can suggest readings to accompany this work. So I always tell students, when you do the 1 through 9 on the guidelines, you should have 2 pages, but sometimes students don't have 2 full pages. And in order to get full credit for this assignment, you've got to submit at least 2 pages. And so sometimes students will do the 10th option, which is work that will accompany this article. And so you can maybe find a film, a book, something that would go along with this article and supplement it. And so you have now successfully discovered how to write an academic journal article review. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and best of success in writing your academic journal article review.